Welcome to Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church. Our service today is called Reclaiming Our Minds. Good morning. Good morning. I'm the Reverend Dr. Suzanne Intriligator, and my pronouns are she and hers. And it is wonderful to see so many of you here on such a cold morning. I know it took a lot of courage just to get up and out this morning, so thank you for being here. And especially because a lot of you were here late last night for a big church event, our annual church auction. You'll hear more about that in just a minute. So I am especially appreciative to see so many here with us today. Our church is a loving and vibrant community, and if you're here for the first time, we have a special person here to answer any questions you might have, and that is our greeter, who is wearing a yellow stole, and today it is Nancy Nichols. There she is. If you have any questions, please see Nancy. Thank you to Nancy, and also to today's usher, Janice Bissix, and to our coffee hour hosts, which are Ann Easterbooks and Doug Dick. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, we have just one announcement before we go further today, and I call forward Mary Hildebrand, who is the chair of our auction committee.
So I'll give you the news you've been waiting for first. We made about $8,000 last night. We made almost $4,000 online, and we made almost $700 on advanced ticket sales. So we spent approximately $700 on decor, food, and the band. So we're going to make somewhere around $12,000. So thank you for all the clapping, but I want to thank a fabulous committee. Jennifer, who led the creation of the online auction, along with Charlie, Martha, Jean, and Paul. Jean, who coordinated all of the communications with the office, the congregation, and the community, and along with Jeannie and Beth, who did an amazing job on the decorations, the food, and the program. Doug, our amazing auctioneer, Tug and other skit participants, and Charlie, I think you need to be a writer for SNL, or you need to at least sell that skit to the UUA. Cindy, who went to local businesses and solicited donations from them. Thank you, Cindy. Wendy, who coordinated finances and payments and participated in the skits. Kathy, who pitched in last night. Anyway, I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but thanks to everyone who came out to help set up and everyone who stayed to clean up last night. Shout out to Tom, who set up all the tables and chairs for us. That was a lot of hard work, and I was able to see him both. Jean and I saw him beforehand and thanked him personally, so if you do see him, thank him. And finally, thank you to everyone who made a donation, who bought an item. And one example is this MLK poster that shows how fabulous our donations were and how talented our congregation is. And it's been my great pleasure to work with everyone on this project.
I will just add that this poster you can't see from where you're sitting, but it's actually a graphic illustration, and the words are from the letter from a Birmingham jail, and they're made into the image. It was made by Brian Johnson, one of our community members, and donated by him. And Jean purchased it at the auction, and they've decided it would look great in our sanctuary, especially for Black History Month. So we're hoping to find a way to hang it better than sitting on a chair for the rest of the month. Wonderful, thanks to everyone. So let's move right ahead with worship today. Our electronic order of service is available at this QR code. I know it was broken last week, but I've tried it, I've tested it, it does work this week. You can also find it by going to our website on the home page. If you click on the worship box, the More button, it will take you to a page where the whole order of service is laid out. Now, let's welcome one another to worship this morning. Turn to your neighbor and say, "Good morning. Thanks for coming." It's good to see you. For our call to worship this morning, I have words from the contemporary philosopher and activist Rebecca Solnit. Along with Bill McKibben, she hosted a live online event on Inauguration Day. It was called "The Way We Will Get Through This Is Together." And these words are from her introduction to that event. The way we will get through this is together. Together in our existing communities, together in caring for one another, together in embodying the politics of care against carelessness, connection against division. Well before the election, Silicon Valley did a lot to separate and isolate us from each other, encourage us to stay apart, to accept substitutes for being with each other in person, to forget that there's something very powerful about being together in body, in space and place, as friends or as civil society. The communities we build for joy and pleasure and friendship in ordinary times become the communities with which we defend each other and what needs defending in extraordinary times. Come, let us worship together. Now we light the symbol of our faith, the flaming chalice. Here to light it for us this morning is a member of our nominating committee, Don Bissix. You may ask, what does the nominating committee do? Well, it helps people volunteer to lead us. So if you're interested in a leadership position here at church, you might talk to Don. Thank you, Don.
Good morning. This year we are experimenting with some new options for our covenant space here in worship. Today we will share the vision and statement of our church adopted 1 year ago. I invite you now to rise in body or in spirit and join me as you feel comfortable. The words will appear on the screen. We envision a dynamic faith community that nourishes our liberal religious values of love, reason, conscience, and action. We foster lives of integrity, joy, and service to each other, and to the world.
Thank you. Please remain standing. Turn on your microphone. Please remain standing and join in our opening hymn, which is number 391 in the gray hymnal. The words will appear here on the screen. It's "Voice Still and Small."
Morning. Ooh. Apologies, friends. Good morning. I am on a need to invite y'all up for me to help me at this time for all ages this morning. If you have a food allergy, let me know what it is. This isn't a high allergen thing, but rather be safe than sorry. There's nothing to be scared of. What? Oh, well, great news. This is neither lobster, shrimp, or crab. All right. And when you come up here, I'm going to invite you to sit down, get comfortable. And then I might ask you to do something scary, to close your eyes and put your hands out. Now, I need you to keep your eyes closed, and I'm going to lead you through this activity. Even if when you feel this, you know what it is, I want you to pretend you're in a world where you've never experienced any food item in your life. Maybe you're an alien from space. Maybe you're an alien from space, and I need you, as we're thinking about how we draw our attention in the world and experience the world, to notice your senses. So the first thing I want you to do is take what is in your hand and roll it around and tell me about its texture. What does it feel like? What are you experiencing? As if you have no other thing to compare it to. Is it smooth? Is it wrinkly? Is it kind of rubbery? It feels like Play-Doh. Interesting. And then I want you to take it and I want you to smell it. Just give it a sniff. Does it smell like anything? Yeah, what does it smell like? Like a raisin. Is it sweet? Does it smell sweet or sour? Sweet. It smells chocolatey. Interesting. And then I want you, if you're comfortable, to take a small taste of it. And I want you to tell me what it's like without telling me what it is. What does it taste like? Is it chewy? Is it slimy? It's a bit chewy. Is it sour or sweet? Sweet. Is it yummy or gross? Yummy. And then I want you to slowly open your eyes and look what's in your hand. And I want you to tell me what it looks like. Don't tell me what it is. Tell me what details you notice when you really look at it. It's wrinkly. What? It's sticky. It's oval shaped. Does it make a sound if you rub it by your ear? No, there's no sound. It's quiet. It makes a slight sound. Is it squeaky? It's like a slimy sound. Oh, interesting. Now, in the world, do you ever slow down and really pay attention to the things around you like that often? Once in a meditation class at camp, that was the perfect place to do it. Oh, with M&Ms. Do you know how you put on socks and you don't notice you're wearing socks till you think about the fact you're wearing socks? Right? Sometimes we just have to slow down and take that attention and notice the things around us that we normally went in a strange way and pretend we've never experienced it before, even though we have, in fact, experienced a raisin. It did smell chocolate. Raisins and chocolate often go together. They're a good pairing. Well, with that, and the consideration of how we can slow down and notice something as small as a raisin in all of its details, we're going to go downstairs, we're going to build a blanket fort, and think about how we pay attention to each other's bodies when we're building things and how important rest is for the work of justice.
Every Sunday, we take time in the middle of our worship service for quiet and contemplation. We do this to connect with ourselves, to connect with our higher power, to connect with our ideals. Let's begin this time together by feeling into our bodies. Let's feel ourselves relax into our seats, feel our feet on the floor. Take time to breathe in and out. Feel ourselves breathing in and out. In this time of meditation and prayer, first we'll join in our centering song, and then we'll sit for a time of shared quiet. Then we'll talk to one another about our joys and sorrows, and I will lead us in a prayer. Our worship theme for February is justice, and our centering song for the month is Just as Long as I Have Breath, which is number 6 in the gray hymnal. Please remain seated. The words will appear here on the screen, and let the song gently guide you into our time of shared quiet. Every Sunday in our service, we take time to share with one another our joys and sorrows, the personal milestones of our lives. We speak and we listen to one another with great care so that we come to know one another better and that we can companion one another better on this journey of life. So I invite forward anyone who has a sorrow to share this morning to come and speak from this mic, which Janet can hand you. The other candle for all the joys that were shared and those that remain quietly in our hearts this morning. Let the candle be for us a reminder to feel grateful for all the many, many blessings in our lives. I believe in you, Janice. I know you can get it lit. Today's prayer was written by Tess Baumberger, who's our minister in Essex, Massachusetts. It's called, "Thank You for Our Fears." As you are comfortable, please join me in the spirit of prayer. Love that liberates us all, today I thank you for our fears. For what we fear is the destruction of what we value. Justice and the equitable treatment of all, pluralism and affirmations of interdependence, care for our earth, generosity of heart, and transformation of our spirits and our world. Thank you that we are afraid, because it shows us what we value. If the cost of safety is forsaking our values, may we continue to be afraid. May we lean into our fears and show up for our values despite them. May we take comfort in one another. May we take time to rest, to laugh, to dance. May we find beauty in a troubled world. May we feel and live the love which liberates us all. Amen.
Our church is self-funded, supported by your generous annual pledge. You may also give to our weekly collection, which we split every month with a worthy group via our Giving Beyond Our Walls program. Remote folks can donate using the orange button at the top right corner of our homepage at melroseuu.org. Half of our collection plate in February will go to a scholarship fund set up by Friends of Melrose Metco. Founded in 2019, the Friends aim to engage and involve the Melrose community, offering residents opportunities to learn, volunteer, and show their support for and solidarity with Boston Metco families. Each year, the Friends offer a scholarship to a graduating Metco student at Melrose High. Our offertory selections today will be presented by Tom Kurtz, Randall Gromenstein, and Lee Danielson. They're going to give us a little Renaissance music today.
Thank you for your gift of music. So, on to our sermon. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that there is a kid, a Gen Z kid, who is not mine, not my kid. Let's call him Marcus. And he's middle class and well-loved and has all the advantages in life. Still, his parents are really worried because it seems that all he's interested in is a video game. Let's say that game is Call of Duty. Marcus, if left to his own devices, would play the game round the clock, all day, every day. His parents find this obsession disturbing. His grandparents find it repulsive. They often tell the parents, the answer is simple, just take it away. It causes a lot of tension across the generations. But Marcus's parents can't bear to take it away because Marcus has friends inside the video world, far more than in the real world, where he doesn't seem to have any at all. And Marcus seems to have a sense of mastery in the game. It makes him happy. It makes him feel powerful and competent. And he doesn't seem to have much of that anywhere else. So what can they do? They try to put limits on it, but however they do that, Marcus finds a way around it. And the more they push, the more he pulls away, seemingly into a dark cloud. Is it worth ruining their relationship with him? What can they do? Is this a situation you can relate to at all? Anything like that happening in your family? Okay, now let me ask you a seemingly totally unrelated question, and maybe one that has never been asked from this pulpit before, but raise your hand if you've ever played slot machines. And have you ever played for longer than you intended to? Okay, a few brave people will admit that. I like that. Okay, so in his new book, The Siren's Call, MSNBC commentator Chris Hayes tells a short history of slot machines. Apparently, they started out in pubs across the country as a simplified version of poker machines that you could often find in pubs. But they proved so addictive that a wave of anti-vice laws cracked down against slot machines, and they got banned in most places, except for Las Vegas. And there, they became a science. Las Vegas figured out how to make them better and better and better. So now in Las Vegas, casinos make between 50 and 88% of their gambling income from slot machines alone. They are by far Vegas's biggest source of income. Chris Hayes writes, slot machines hold our attention by grabbing it for just a little bit while we wait for the spinning to stop and then repeating that same brief but intense process over and over again. A moment of suspense is followed by resolution. A mystery in miniature is revealed, perhaps satisfyingly, perhaps unsatisfyingly, but right there, ready to be repeated. And here's the interesting part. Hayes goes on to quote the work of cultural anthropologist Natasha Dow-Schul, who found that what keeps habitual players playing is not, in fact, what you thought, the chance of winning. It is instead what she calls a unique attentional trance. Molly, one of the slot players interviewed, put it this way. Today, when I win, and I do win from time to time, I just put it back into the machines. The thing people never understand is that I'm not playing to win. I keep playing to stay in the machine zone where nothing else matters. It's like being in the eye of a storm. Your vision is clear on the machine in front of you, but the whole world is spinning around you, and you can't really hear anything. You aren't really there. You're with the machine, and that's all that you're with. It's an attentional trance, an addictive attentional trance. According to Hayes, the slot machine model is exactly what designers now routinely use to entice us into video games, streaming media, and social media. They're all designed to lure you in by grabbing your attention in little tiny ways over and over and over again. At first, there might be some rewards involved, dispensed intermittently in a pattern you can't predict. But then after a while, it's not even the rewards you seek, but the trance itself. The trance is addictive. For me, this was an eye-opening insight. It stopped me kind of dead in my tracks. I had never understood slot machine players. I had never even been tempted to try it. But I had never equated them with me sitting in front of my computer screen or on my phone. I'd never equated them with my probably daily occurrence of losing 5 minutes or half an hour or maybe 2 hours down some internet rabbit hole. Even if you don't have social media, and I know a lot of you don't, I know there are a lot of conscientious objectors to social media in our congregation, and I respect that. But now there are so many other pathways into that trap. I mean, sometimes I won't even be on social media. I'll be going to learn something, like on a news website or on Wikipedia, but I end up following a trail and losing an hour of my life in the process. Or the streaming services. Have you noticed how much more of our life is taken up by TV? More than it was before? Just in the last 5 years or so, it's become socially acceptable to bring TV into small talk conversations. It's now common to ask each other, well, what are you watching these days? And to actually brag about binging TV, which is weird. We never would have done that 10 or 20 years ago. Because there is so much more content, you have this feeling that you're only watching a little bit, but if you tally up the hours you've spent, it's probably more than you used to. And we know that fewer and fewer of us are reading books. Libraries are desolate. Far fewer of us are having conversations face to face. Club membership, church membership, down, down, down. And of course, there's plenty of reporting on the epidemic of loneliness. More and more, we are alone on our screens. And I think that it's a huge, undiagnosed spiritual disease. We're not happy, and we are, on the whole, stuck in a trance. Here's a shocking statistic for you. In 2013, the Washington Post reported that if you totaled up all the hours people have played Call of Duty, which is a first-person shooter game, it would exceed 2.85 million person years. That's more than 14 times longer than humanity has existed on planet Earth. And that was 12 years ago. Hayes says it's not an accident that the main model used by social media companies, what we call the feed, moves like a slot machine vertically, and that you can scroll through it endlessly. So if you use it at all, your phone has become a slot machine in your pocket. And the problem isn't just social media, it's a whole economy designed to capture our attention and sell it. Now, if you're retired, then you might be lucky enough to be able to step out of this economy. And you may think that others should just do the same, but for people who are still working, the answer is less clear. We can't just say no. We have to engage with it. For example, the main way that I'm in touch with my faith colleagues, other UU ministers, is on Facebook. We have many thriving groups there where we share ideas for worship, for administration, for social justice organizing. This is how I feel connected to them. Without it, I would be lost. But it's also, dangerous and addictive. So how do I sample Facebook in small measures and keep it, under wrapped? It's a fact of life. Now, we UU ministers have talked about moving off Facebook for years, but it's an issue of critical mass because nobody wants to be the only one on something else. That's a waste of time. Recently, finally, there's a big drive among us to move to Blue Sky, which is a similar social media, but it's ad-free. And I just tried it myself, and it is actually refreshing. And now more and more of us are there. I think we're finally ready to make the switch. But everyone in the work world faces pressure to use social media to communicate. We are pressured by our bosses to excel in social media. Even though I'm here preaching on the evils of social media, the church just announced we have a new Instagram account. I know, it's ironic, but we have great events here and we're trying to communicate with the larger world and having a hard time with it. We have to engage in this kind of war for attention of all against all, even though we don't want to. Chris Hayes' book just came out, which means he wrote it before the inauguration, before we witnessed the full coronation of Elon Musk and the knighting of all those other media titans, the guys who are seated more prominently than the cabinet appointees. So now Hayes' book is even scarier when we see them all aligned together and aligned with our government. We have to ask, what is coming? What do they have planned? It's hard to say, but Hayes warns of some general trends. He says that we're being trained to want more, to be more and more unsatisfied with our media, and therefore more unstable, so that our collective attention can be further manipulated. He uses the phrase attention fracking for more and more destructive forms of mining our attention. For example, eating into our sleep hours, getting younger and younger kids hooked, and getting people to do normalizing things like looking at 2 or 3 screens at once. Have you noticed this with your kids? They'll be watching a movie and looking at their phone at the same time. Adults think of it as multitasking, but it is really a bad example to set for our kids. Our sense of what our attention is shifting. So what do? Our most important tool here is awareness. We need to educate ourselves so we can free ourselves and other people. We can watch what we do and have awareness about it. And whenever we can resist it in small, everyday ways and in larger ways. We can set boundaries around the amount of time that we spend with screens, obviously. We can rid ourselves of the smart speakers that may or may not be listening to us. We can move to different service providers. There's one called Signal, which is encrypted. It's a group texting it's a group texting app that people use for organizing because it's encrypted, both going and coming. There's also Blue Sky, like I said, which is ad-free. It's really important to move over and also, of course, to take breaks, to make space for yourself and your own thoughts in your world. Chris Hayes, in his book, talks about how every day since he was a teenager, he takes walks, and that's been really an important practice for him. But he used to walk and listen to podcasts through earpods, and he's decided recently to stop doing that, that he actually needs that time just for his own thoughts, to let them out, to let them wander as they will, and that walking and having thoughts helps him be more productive. And also, he makes the point that we have to allow ourselves more often to do nothing, that nothing is also productive. Nothing is a part of genius. Nothing is a part of great ideas. That if you have downtime, idle time, to think your own thoughts or just let your mind wander, it ends up helping you to be much more creative in the long run. And this might be a piece that our kids are missing. It's really important for us to have conversations cross-generations about these trends, but try not to be prescriptive. If you've got a kid like Marcus in your life, it's important to, I think, in my opinion, not tell him to get off of media, but to maybe lead by example, to be with him and to be present and to be peaceful in his presence, to be real, to be authentic, to be calm and offline. More than ever, it's important to take our kids camping, hiking, fishing, to lead by example and lead by fun, to try to be patient and take the long view. Have faith in your kids and in yourself. As for the larger scene, Hayes makes an extended analogy between the attention economy and the labor force in the 19th century. He says that when masses of people first moved from agricultural work into factories, their hours, of course, were unlimited and conditions were dangerous. Labor was extracted mercilessly, until journalists and labor unions rose up in a movement and fought back against it. Social movements and finally brought legislation, which curbed child labor, improved conditions and hours. In his analogy, Hayes and other commentators with him are hoping that a similar backlash is coming for the attention extractors, that people are getting fed up with this level of manipulation, and that people en masse are ready to move on from it, like my colleagues moving on from blue sky. So, what happened to this kid named Marcus, you might ask? He did grow up, that kid I told you about, and he grew out of his obsession with Call of Duty. Other games came and went. Eventually, Marcus went away to college and figured out in his own time how to make friends in real life. Now he's a survivor of attentional addiction, and Marcus is really intentional about how he spends his time. He works in tech, but he's really careful to limit his work time to just work hours. Like most adult Gen Zers, Marcus is less defined by work than his parents are, and he's more committed to finding balance in life. Marcus carefully plans real-life activities with his friends, actually much more so than his parents do. He's not a member of a church, but he is a part of several other communities and networks that he takes care to maintain and build in real life. Like me, Marcus is also a big fan of Rebecca Solnit, whom he follows on social media. I'll remind you that she wrote her call to worship today. Her words: "The way we will get through this is together. Together in our existing communities, together in caring for one another. The communities we build for joy and pleasure and friendship in ordinary times become the communities with which we defend each other and what needs defending in extraordinary times." Unquote. My prayer today is that we will all take more and more time to find the still small voice within, to quote our first hymn this morning. That we will find a stillness, create limits and boundaries with ourselves so that we can have peace in our own minds and peace in our own families and peace with our own children. Let's commit to building that sense of peace in our families and here in our beloved community, the community that we build together that will help us survive and thrive in the months and years to come. Amen. If you would please rise in body or in spirit for our final hymn, which is Find a Stillness, number 352 in the gray hymnal. Words will appear on the screen. Thank you. Please remain standing and join me in the chalice extinguishing words now on the screen. We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please be seated. Our worship is ended. Thank you for joining. After a brief postlude from Tom, I invite everyone to join everyone else for refreshments in Parish Hall right there. Thank you for joining, and happy Sunday.